host is a pro-lifer member. With that comes a community. Losing imagine God. Yeah, that is my standpoint. I don't think we should unalive pieces. Hello,
Hey man,
atheist.
how are you?
For my purposes, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm sorry, you asked my age?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 30.
All right. What do you want to debate?
Yeah, I wanted to first address your $20 thing. I understand the example being set by that. I think where it's flawed is where I completely understand and agree with that if you give someone $20 every single day and then you stop one day, that is well within your right to do so. What I don't think is within your right is to then rob that person of the $20 you gave them the day before. I think you can stop giving them $20. I don't think you
God
can
is
steal
robbing
what you
us.
have
I
given
think
them.
God is just stopping giving us life.
I can understand that if God stops giving you the protections and stuff that he talks about in the Bible and therefore things happen to you and you die, but God physically taking action to revoke and take your life, I think is a completely different thing. I see that as the same as stealing the $20 back. If he just stops giving you the protection
I
and you
disagree.
expire, then that would be as if he just stopped providing the resources needed for you to continue getting that.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay, but do you see it from my understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also, I wanted to touch on the free will thing. Um, there are multiple examples throughout the Bible where we see people making decisions and then God forcibly changing that, or putting
Where?
or threatening death in cases so that certain people would have to do certain things. Moses, Pharaoh, Jonah, Balaam, Judas,
Yeah, you're
Jesus.
naming people. Where are the verses?
I'm giving the examples. So, like for example, I think the best one is bringing up Pharaoh. Pharaoh was predestined to be in that situation to cause this strife between God's people and his people so that God could show off his power. And God even says it in Exodus, I believe, chapter
Yeah, he
9.
hardened his
And
heart.
yeah, so again, we see that God admits to predestination. We admit, or that we know that there are many verses, including, I believe, Ephesians 1 and Romans 9 are the best ones to point for this. But all of Ephesians 1 is basically showing out that it is God's will and not man's will of where we end up, of how we do things. Remember, faith is a gift from God. And so while we are called to share the gospel, and it is through that people get the gift of faith, God is the one who chooses who gets the gift of faith. God chooses us. We do not choose God. And also in Romans 9, we can see in verse 16 that it depends not on human will or extortion, but on God's, who shows mercy. For the scripture says to Pharaoh, I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I may show my power in you, and that my name may be proclaimed throughout the earth. So then he has mercy on whom he chooses, and he hardens the heart of whomever he chooses. We also see in verse 22 of the same chapter, what if God, desiring to show his wrath, to make known his power, has endured with much patience the objects of wrath that are made for destruction, and what he has done in order to make known the riches of his glory for the objects of mercy, which he has prepared beforehand for
Sorry,
glory.
atheistic. I just want to meet you real quick. TB said, I want to get closer to God. What's the best way to do so? So, TB, it all starts with prayer, praying to God, confessing our sins to him. Having a relationship with him is praying. And TB, going to church, reading the Bible, learning about God's word is also great. But TB, ultimately that's going to start with praying. That's how you're going to get closer with God. Pray every day. Pray multiple times a day. TB, that's how you're going to get closer to God. So I hope you get closer to God in your journey, man. All right, atheistic, you can unmute. Sorry, I just wanted to address that comment.
No, you're fine.
All right, atheistic, you can unmute. Sorry, I just wanted to address that comment.
Ooh, I have an echo. No, you're fine. So basically,
I don't hear an
ooh, I
echo.
have an echo. Let me drop and come back. I got an
Thank you,
echo.
boss me. No problem, man. I don't hear an echo.
Here, let me drop and come
Thank
back.
you,
I got an
boss
echo.
me. No problem, man. No problem, TB. Request up if you guys disagree with any of the topics on the screen. Tap that screen and share the live.
All right, I think that's better.
All right.
But yeah, so just finishing up with in Romans 9:22, as we see that, or 22 and 23, is that we see that God prepares certain people for certain things beforehand. We know that the Lamb was slain from the foundation of the world. All of this is going according to God's plan. So to answer your question about Adam and Eve were going a part of God's plan. It was God's plan that Jesus was to come. Somehow sin had to enter the world. Somehow sin had to do creation. So that's why God planned it, so that when he created Adam and Eve did not have the knowledge of good and evil. They did not get that until their eyes were opened from eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Without the knowledge of good and evil, how could you possibly reason for yourself between right and wrong? You
So
can't. You just have to go with what
would
you're
you listen to
told.
your mother?
It depends. It depends on what she tells me.
If your mother said not to eat a food, and there was plenty of other foods to eat, and your mother said not to eat one food specifically, would you listen to her?
I don't know, probably. But
Okay, now, and if a
let
random
me give
person
you
that you
an
don't,
example. And the
no,
reason
so
why I
okay,
answer the
no,
question this
so
way.
you're gonna let me speak. So now, if a random person told you to go eat that fruit, it's gonna make you like a god. Would you do it? Or sorry, not fruit, food.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. But
Okay, exactly. So
but
yeah.
the thing is that I do have the capability to reason for myself. And the reason why I wanted to answer the question initially with it depends on what I'm being asked is because I've had my parents tell me to lie to the police before. I've had my parents tell me to do things that are illegal before, or that I believe are morally wrong. But the thing is, I had the ability to reason right and wrong for myself, whereas Adam and Eve did not. They had to rely on what they were being told. The only problem is because they couldn't take what they were told and decide for themselves whether that was right or wrong to follow it. That's why when God let the servant come in and tell them something different, they went along with what they were told. God literally sabotaged them by removing the one thing that they needed in order to make that decision for themselves. And then he punishes them as if they are fully responsible for that decision. And
Yeah,
that's
God
why.
said not to eat from the fruit of knowledge, not to eat from the tree of knowledge, and they did. Not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge, and they did.
Yeah, that's my whole point.
Yeah,
You can tell someone
they rebelled against God. They
50
disobeyed
million
God.
times. Yeah, you can tell people something that you want 50 million times, but if they don't understand it and can't reason for themselves, then they wouldn't be responsible.
How so? So if a being that created you, would you listen to them?
It depends. I mean, my parents created me, and it depends on what they say that I listen to them. So
I've already given the analogy, brother.
the analogy of what?
If your mom, if there was a bunch of food everywhere, and your
Oh,
mom
okay,
told you not
that
to
one.
eat,
Yeah, I don't know. I already answered that question. I don't know. I need more factors, more information.
give me an answer. But
Probably
okay.
not, because I don't believe that anything would give me that ability. But
Yeah.
that's in my own reasoning.
I'm not sure where you guys are on the conversation. I'm just kind of jumping on, but as Muslims, the story is a little bit different. Of Adam and Eve, God says that He created them for the earth to begin with. That was the intent, meaning eating from the tree was not the reason why they were casted down to earth. I mean, it was not a punishment for them. This was the intent right from the onset, before Adam was created. Hence, he was created from earth, literally earth, and molded into clay of a human being, and God breathed his soul into him. So this is what Islam understands. So the idea of us being here is a punishment, and we need to be saved somehow by the sacrificial unaliving of another perfect person, or another God, if you will. That idea is a foreign idea. I mean, that would for me denote a sadistical type of God that would do something
Yeah,
like
what
that.
is this guy yapping about? Just to be clear, if you claim that God is necessary, that means in some possible world where God does not exist, it actually wouldn't be a possible world, right? There'd be something contradictory. Just go ahead and give the
Yeah,
contradiction in that
yeah,
world.
that
Just give the two. Well, I'm not
obviously you're
talking to
talking
you,
about
That's a
Slowboy.
pretty
Hold
that's
on,
a
some
pretty
Slowboy. I'm not
some
talking to
supposition.
you. So yeah, I'm asking host.
Presupposition.
Can you just give the two propositions that form the contradiction in the world where God does not exist? Go ahead.
Brother, what?
Do you tolerate this kind of nonsense on your life, bro?
So Z, first of all, we're not gonna interrupt. That's what we're not gonna do. MC, you can keep going.
Right on. So, what I was saying again,
Oh yeah, no,
was
KPT. This
obviously,
guy's retarded. Let's.
Z, you can mute. Leave.
yeah, just drop him, man. He's here to troll. But yeah, this was a response to the fellow, below me. But as far as the prompt, obviously I'm Muslim, so God is real, and definitely abortion should be illegal. I think in Islam, the only case that may be debatable where it could be, permissible would be in the case of grape, maybe. And even in the case of grape, all depends on the time frame, like how advanced the pregnancy is or not, because at the same time, it's still a life, and it is not for us to basically cancel the life process, right? Because the life has been given by not us. That's what we believe in. I mean, obviously, the biological conception is from the human beings, but the soul, that what makes the human being, that soul is still coming from the divine. And once that soul enters the fetus, abortion is no longer viable in Islam, even in the case of grape. So that's what I would say about your prompt.
All right, I think Islam's false, but
Why do you think Islam is false?
because it contradicts itself.
In which way?
Do you follow the Injil?
Do I follow the Injil? I don't have to follow the Injil. I'm not required to do that.
The Quran says to follow the Injil.
Where?
568, 7, 157, 911,
Read it.
547,
Let's read all of it in context.
33.
Let's read it in context.
It says to follow the Injil, brother. We don't have to read it in context.
Okay, so this what the problem is when you pull out verses out of context, and they can say whatever you want them to say, but you read the full context, this is addressing
What's the context of those
Christians.
verses?
This is addressing Christians. Say, if you were to uphold your book
No.
and to uphold the revelation that's been sent to you, meaning this current revelation, the Quran, then you have something to stand on. But it's not telling us, the Muslims. I mean, how can you, as a layman Christian, know our books better than us? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I do know your book better than you.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
you
it is.
can.
I mean, if he studies
So,
it, then yeah, I can definitely understand how he can
right,
see
but
how he
you're
can
meaning one
understand your book better
layperson
than you.
is more studied than 1,400 years of scholarship.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he might just be more studied than you.
Okay. Not me, perhaps, yeah. I'm just a layperson, but again, I doubt it. There's nothing like that in Islam that we believe we have to follow
I'll be
the
honest,
Injil.
you're the first Muslim that I've come across that has said anything against abortion at all. So clearly, you have some different views than other Muslims, and so
No, I don't. Maybe you haven't met any Muslim in your life. I can trust that
I've talked
statement.
to about a good 30 or so on here, and I've talked to a good handful in my life. And again, you're the first one
Yeah.
to say anything like this about abortion, which
Then
I'm not
that's what
saying
it is. You may
anything
not
is
even know
wrong
if
with.
they are real Muslim.
And
You have
I'm
Shia
sure
Muslims
he
here.
would say the
You
same
got
about you. But my
Quranian
point,
Muslims here. You got also many people who profess so many things on TikTok. So this is
sure.
not the place. Hello, am I still live?
Yeah. Sorry, you dropped to some
Can you guys hear
red
me?
bars. Can you hear
Yeah,
us?
so I'm saying TikTok is definitely not the best place to learn about Islam. If you want to learn about Islam, TikTok is not that place. I mean, I will suggest to you, there's a YouTube channel called Muslim Lantern.
Yeah,
Muslim
actually, I
Lantern.
follow Muslim
And
Lantern.
okay, then if you follow Muslim Lantern, then come on, let's not even, you know. So you know better. So
Yeah, but
Islam.
my point is that all
Wait till
Muslims don't
atheistic. I have
agree
a
on
question
this
for
stuff.
you.
Yeah,
Why aren't you Muslim?
because I'm not convinced that Islam is the truth, same as Christianity.
You follow that dude though.
So you
So
don't
what?
believe
I
in God
follow.
at all?
So what? I follow lots of Christian people too.
Oh, well.
So you don't believe in the existence of God?
I haven't been convinced that a
Well, the
God
universe
exists.
has a beginning, so
I
therefore
also
it
am a
has to have
little
a cause, so
unclear
it
of
has to be
what
an
God
uncaused
means.
cause. Did you hear me, atheistic?
No, I was answering the question.
The universe has a beginning, so therefore it has to have a cause, so it has to be
I
an
don't know if
uncaused.
it has a beginning.
Well, yeah, so do you think it's eternal?
Maybe it might be. I don't know.
Yeah, it can't be eternal because it changes states.
I don't know why that means it can't be eternal.
So,
Because if you're
so
eternal, there's no
how?
beginning or end. You can't change states if you're
Who
eternal.
says?
Science.
Where does science says that for something to be eternal, the properties cannot change states?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
So my question is, what do you make of the Big Bang?
Yeah, the Big Bang is simply a description of one singular point in time that describes the expansion of the universe.
So can you give me one
Right.
contradiction in the
Well,
Bible, atheistic?
The Gospels disagree on the resurrection and how that all went down.
How?
Um,
How do they disagree?
yeah, because they all give something different. One of them says that there was an earthquake that put away the stone. Another says that it was two angels. Another says that it was one angel. Another said that it was
Can you
just
give me
one
the
woman that
verses?
went there with. Yeah, I guess we can go there. And I believe it was Mark. Mark, the resurrection story wasn't even in there originally. It was added after the fact. So originally, Mark doesn't even have the resurrection of Jesus in it.
No shit.
Hmm.
Mark wasn't an eyewitness.
I'm sorry.
Mark wasn't an eyewitness. No, no,
Well,
no.
none of these were eyewitnesses. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. None of them are eyewitnesses.
John, Matthew, Peter, James, Judas, Jude.
Oh, our
Eyewitnesses,
Muslim
bro.
friend is gone. Um, no, the people who wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These are not eyewitnesses.
What is your evidence?
I can send you the scholarly census on that. They are they are most likely written by the followers of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Where is your evidence?
Yeah, I told you I will send you the scholarly consensus on
You
that.
know Mark's a follower of Peter, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, this is not Mark the apostle though.
Mark wasn't an apostle.
So if you look at the very last chapter of Matthew, we'll get to the resurrection. Now it says, after the Sabbath, as the
What
first day of the
verse?
week. This was Matthew chapter 28.
Verse 1?
Yeah, we'll start with verse 1. It's a short
Okay.
chapter.
In the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Mhm.
And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. Let me keep reading.
And his appearance was lightning, and his clothes white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, he has risen, as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. This is my message for you." So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came to him and took hold of his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Don't be afraid. Go tell my brothers and sisters to go to Galilee, and there they will see me." So we see in Mark that Mary and Mary Magdalene are going to the tomb. This is on the Sabbath, and it was at the dawn time. And then there was a great earthquake, and an angel of the Lord came and rolled away the stone. Because of how amazing he was, the guards, passed out and stuff like that. They just couldn't handle it. The angel told the women, "Don't be afraid. Jesus has been raised from the dead. Go tell his people. And then they run to go tell the disciples. Jesus meets them on the way, shows himself to them, and then tells them to go ahead and tell everyone that he'll be in Galilee. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's go to the next gospel.
So John.
Well, let's go to Mark. Let's go to Mark,
Okay.
chapter 16.
Okay.
So when the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and Salmon brought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us at the entrance of the tomb?" And when they looked up, they saw the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. And as they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in white robes, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, there's the place they laid him. But go and tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." So they went out and fled the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. So here we have Mary, the mother Mary, and now a third woman, Salmon. So now a third woman is added to the story. There is no earthquake that rolls away the stone. When they get there, the stone is
Where
already
does it
rolled
say
away.
that?
Because you can see, because where's the mention of the earthquake here that rolls away the stone like the first one? It says when they get
Just
there.
because it doesn't mention it doesn't. Just because it doesn't mention it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Interesting. And then it also says that they ran and they didn't tell anyone, whereas in the
Yeah, they
previous
didn't tell
gospel,
anyone until they got to the disciples.
no.
Yeah.
No, let's read the rest of the chapter then. And all that had been commanded they briefly told to those around Peter, and afterward Jesus himself sent them out. So again, this is something that they had briefly explained.
What
just
verse are you on?
This is verse 9, I believe. Yeah, 9. And afterward Jesus himself sent out throughout them through the east and the west, and scared the and sacred and imperishable proclamation of eternal salvation. Amen. And now after he arose early on the first day of the week, when he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons, she went out and told those who had been with him.
Yeah, so she told them.
Who had been with him while they were mourning and weeping. But when they had heard that he was alive, he had been seen in winter. Yes, but again, they did not do this immediately after.
How do you know?
Because it says they didn't.
Where?
And then I just read it to you in the very end of verse 8. Because the fear had seized them. The fear and amazement. Now going so we have a third woman that has been added to the story.
Yeah,
the earthquake has disappeared.
Mark doesn't mention the third woman doesn't mean the third woman.
Hold on. Let's keep going.
If Mark were to say the Salome wasn't there, then it would be a contradiction.
So then we go to Luke 24.
Okay.
It says, "But on the first day of the week, at early dawn, when they went to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared, they found the stone rolled away." Again, they came up and they just found it rolled away. They didn't see the earthquake roll it away or the angel roll it away. But when they went in, they did not find the body. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly 2 men, not one, 2 men, dazzling clothes, stood beside them.
Mark, can I respond, please? So Mark and Matthew chose to focus on the angel that was speaking.
There are angels speaking here too, but there's 2 of them, not one.
There's only one angel that speaks.
But there's 2 angels here, not one. So yeah. The woman,
Mark and Matthew only chose to only chose to focus on the angel that was speaking.
So the women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he told you that he was still in Galilee, that the Son of Man must be handed over to the hands of sinners, to be crucified, on the 3rd day rise again." Then they remembered his words, and returning from the tomb, they told all the 11 and all to the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women, and the other women with them, who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to them to be an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. Stopping and looking in, he saw the linen clothes by themselves, and then he went home, amazed at what had happened. So now we see that it's a group of women,
Yeah,
two
so
angels.
just because Mark and Matthew don't mention these women doesn't mean these women weren't there. Not a contradiction.
No,
If Matthew
these
or
are
Mark were to say,
contradictions. And now this is our last one. This is our last one.
can
John,
I answer the question? Can I please answer the question?
I
If Mark
haven't
or
asked a
Matthew
question
were to
yet.
say that Joanna wasn't there, then it would be a contradiction.
I haven't asked a question yet. So John chapter 20. Early on
I
the
don't care
first
if you've
day.
asked. I don't
This is
care
the
if you
last
haven't
one.
asked the question.
What you said? Can I answer the question? I didn't ask a question. So.
Yeah, I'm giving you a statement.
Okay. All right then.
John chapter 20.
So John chapter 20. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb, and she saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So again, no earthquake, and now just one woman who came and saw that the stone had already been rolled away. So she ran and told Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." And then Peter and the other disciple set out, went toward the tomb, and the two were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down and looked in and saw the linen wrappings laying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings laying there, and the cloth which had been on Jesus' face, not laying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Then the other disciple who reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture, that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their home. But as Mary stood weeping outside the tomb, as she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white sitting there, or sitting where the body of Jesus had been laid, one at the head of, and the other at the feet. And they said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." And she said, and when she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." And she turned around and said to him in Hebrew, Rabbayune, which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not touch me, because I have not yet descended to my Father. But I am to go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and to your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them that he had these things said to her. So now we see that it's just one woman, Mary Magdalene, who goes to the tomb. There is
Just
no
because it doesn't
earthquake.
mention the other woman doesn't
Hold on.
mean.
And everything's out of order. She goes and tells Simon Peter and this other disciple right away, who come back, check it out, leave, and then she alone sees two angels who tell her this stuff, and then she sees Jesus himself.
How
So
do
all of
you
these
know it's in
are not the same story.
order? How do you know it's in order?
So you're saying that this is not in order?
No,
Is
I
that
don't
your
think
claim?
so.
Okay, so how can one woman go and tell the disciples, have them come check it out, and then leave, and then see the angels and Jesus, but in all the other gospels, they just see one to two angels. Sometimes it's an earthquake, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they tell people right away, and sometimes they don't. How can you say that's the same story?
What?
How can you say these are not contradicting stories?
Because just because they don't mention stuff, and just because the order of stuff is different, does not mean it is a contradiction. Those are just sides of different stories.
I think it's a really big
Or
difference
different sides of
when
stories.
you have different accounts saying, "Oh, there was one person who saw." Oh, okay. Hmm. Interesting.